The horror movie that has been the Cardinals bullpen continued its reign of terror in Atlanta. How did a strong spot from last year get so bad? This is Locked on Cardinals.
You are Locked on Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I'm your host for Locked on Cardinals, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Follow me on X at JD Sports Radio. The podcast itself, LO_Cardinals on X as well. We're on YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification button so you don't miss any new material that we drop for you. Also available on TikTok and Instagram at Locked on Cardinals. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. This episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. The Cardinals blew another lead on Monday night in Atlanta, and thanks to a comeback in the ninth inning, the Cardinals eventually would lose 7-6, and to help us sift through the wreckage, we've got Thomas Covain from RedbirdRants.com joining us as he normally does on Tuesdays. Thomas, how was your Easter weekend, man? Things good?
Yeah, it was great. We went back to see my family in St. Louis, spent some time there. We had a nice 5-day break, so Thursday all the way through Monday. It was good. How was yours?
Very nice. Ours was good. Excellent. So we had good weather and everything went well. I don't know why everybody in our family, we do like a brunch thing, but everybody brings like the same dish. It's just eggs and sausage and then cheese, and then nobody can go to the bathroom for like 3 days, which is probably a little too much information. But anyway, moving on. Speaking of toilets, the Cardinals right now, brother.
Yeah, there you go.
Just a fair warning, today's show is not going to be the most positive one just because things aren't going well, so a heads up on that. In fact, I'm switching things up today. Normally I'm wearing some sort of Cardinal red or something for the YouTube folks. Today we're wearing, I don't know if you can see it very well, I got my Ghostface Scream t-shirt on here today because things have been scary, Thomas. They really have. It's something out of a scary movie. Got some ugly stats here for you. Here we go. They've now lost 5 in a row, which is the longest current losing streak in the majors. They're 0-5 in one-run ball games. They're 1-10 away from Busch Stadium. Only the White Sox and the Rockies have comparable away issues. Sox are 1-9. Rockies are 1-11. The Rays are 0-3 because they haven't hardly played on the road because of their stadium issues. And since those 3 wins against the Twins, this team has lost 14 of 20 games. So we're going to get to some fan feedback in this episode because a lot of people are after Oli's head. The Oli Marmol hater rate is flowing strong right now. We're going to talk about the offense as well. But one of the main issues that we want to begin with here is the bullpen. So feel free to cover your eyes on this particular part as well, everybody. This is also very, very scary. The numbers are frightening. The bullpen record is now 1-7. Only the A's have 1 win or less from their relievers. The bullpen ERA is at 5.06, sixth worst in the league. They've given up 76 hits in 79 and 2/3 innings. That's 9th worst. They've walked 36 hitters, 11th worst in the league. They've only struck out 67. That's 5th worst in the league. They're 9th worst in WHIP. Opponents are batting .251 against them. That's the 8th worst. And you compare that to last year where this bullpen, 31-28, ERA, though, 7th best at 3.64. They had the 4th lowest walk total. And essentially we're the backbone to a lot of the success that the team was able to find last year. So, Thomas, your thoughts on what is going on? And we lost Thomas. There he's back. There he is. Your thoughts on what exactly is going on with this bullpen right now?
Yeah, the bullpen struggled. Yesterday you saw it with Jojo Romero. It was the inherited runners. He let all 3 in with that home run he gave up. Your 2 of your 3 best relievers, Kyle Leahy, Phil Maton, have been overused for the last 2 series. Ryan Helsley hasn't gotten in 4 days because we haven't given him a chance to get in. Marmol's just been forced to use his second and third tier relievers most often. And of course, they're going to give up 3-4 runs in their outings. They're just not as good as the other guys are.
Yeah, you mentioned last night Oli's most reliable arm in the pen so far has been Phil Maton, and he finally gets dinged and implodes, and it's like you said, the runners putting runners on with one out. You get that overturned call at first base, which was the right call on the infield single. It was safe, and for whatever reason, this throws Maton completely out of whack. You get a walk, then a single, then another walk. Oli gets tossed for yelling at the umpire on the way out for the pitching.
It was such a bad ejection. I feel like he could have gotten more of his money out of that.
Buddy, is that the most anticlimactic ejection ever where the manager's actually on the field? You've seen guys get like thumbed for, they're in the dugout or whatever, and they might get thrown out and nothing happens. But, I mean, he's out there, and it almost seemed like he didn't realize that he'd gotten tossed. He's just going through, like, he's talking to the team on the mound and, like, okay, this is how we're going to attack this next. No, you're out, dude. The ump's like, dude,
go through a fit.
So, not much of a show to really get people fired up, which is what, usually you're hoping for in a situation like that. At least that's what us fans want to watch. Then you mentioned Romero comes in. He gives up that sac fly to give Atlanta the lead before Sean Murphy mashes a hanging change up into the stands in left field. 3-2 lead becomes a 7-3 deficit in the blink of an eye. And like you mentioned, too, like, we can point fingers at guys like Chris Roycroft and Roddery Munoz and these, the back people that are, they're the lowest guys on the totem pole, but those aren't supposed to be your big moment guys. These guys like Jojo Romero, who's been a big disappointment so far. 6 walks in 8 1/3 innings, just 5 strikeouts, and he's allowed 7 hits. That's horrible. Ryan Fernandez, we know, been really, really bad. He's getting creamed daily when he gets out there. 11.25 ERA, 10 earned runs in 8 innings, 14 hits. He's got 5 walks and just 5 strikeouts. John King, 6 2/3 innings, 4 walks, 9 hits against. Maton, so successful until last night because he wasn't walking guys, and he puts 2 guys on, and the damage ensues. Ryan Helsley, I know that he had that really bad game in Boston, but 6 walks in 7 innings, but these guys are walking too many people. Like, they're making it too easy on the opposing bats. They're not missing bats. Obviously, there's not a lot of swing and miss going on. Too many free base runners, and it's costing them ball games. Again, 1-7 already this year with a team that, despite some early success with the bats, wasn't expected to score the way that they had. And now that it's coming down back to earth a little bit, you're losing these close games. And it's just crushing.
Yeah, it's terrible, especially when the offense does as much as it does yesterday late in games. I looked up yesterday to see what the scoring looked like from the 7th inning on the last couple of years. Last year, the Cardinals were 15th. They had 1.3 runs from innings 7 through 9. This year, they're already up. It's up to 1.61, which is 6th in the league. It would have been 2nd in the league last year. So the offense is doing its job late in games throughout the year. It's just the bullpen has not been able to keep it steady for them.
Yeah, and it's just it's deflating because and it seems like what we keep doing with the Cardinals each year is like they're okay. We were good at this one year, and so we expect that to be good the next year, and let's go fix this problem. And then everything changes, and what was good previously becomes bad, and what was bad becomes good, and we just keep going through this cycle of mediocrity, and it's really frustrating. And I mean, I honestly, like, when I saw what we were bringing back bullpen-wise, I was like, well, a lot of these guys were pretty good last year. Why wouldn't they be good again? And so far, it hasn't quite worked out the way we had hoped it would. Do you think Oli should be bringing in Helsley earlier? We had this thing last year where it was 1 inning. That was the deals to try to keep him healthy. But, in a situation like last night where, things were close to getting out of hand and they ended up getting out of hand, would you have rather seen him go to Helsley and then go to somebody else in the 9th inning? Or do you think it was the right thing to do with going with Romero?
I don't know if last night's the best indication of using Helsley in a non-save situation. I would have preferred Saturday, having him come in the top of the 9th or the bottom of the 9th in a tie game. I know that's not what managers do. I know it's not protocol, but he was already on 2 days rest at that point, which is a good break for him. Now he's run on 4 days rest without seeing a pitch. I think Helsley has seen fewer outings than your average starting pitcher has the last 11 days, which is weird to say that your relief pitcher is getting less time out there than a starter is, but whatever. I would have preferred to use Helsley on Saturday. I still think there's an argument, especially if the rest of the bullpen continues to falter, to throw him in these higher leverage spots, even if it's not a save situation, just to hold things steady for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, we might as well try something new because being used now, it's not working out so well. So perhaps they'll switch things up. I mean, obviously, he's going to tell everybody to relax. Everybody's got their roles, and this is what we're supposed to be doing. And eventually these guys are going to turn things around. But you know how it is with fans. Patience is not something that we're all that great with. So we expect change to turn things around, which we hope happens. You know, losing 5 in a row, and most of these have been close games. So it gets to be a little nauseating after a while. We're going to talk about this offense next, including the struggles of leadoff man Lars Nootbaar on Locked On Cardinals. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's really easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. They are your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money just isn't a budgeting app. It's actually a complete financial command center because you can track all your accounts. You can track your investments, your spending. You can do it all in one place. That way you can stop managing your money and actually start building wealth. And I know it's super convenient to be one of those people that orders food in. You know, you got all of these different ways to get food delivered to you and groceries and stuff like that. But you might not realize how much money you're actually spending when you do that. And now you can, with Monarch Money, help you budget smarter and save more. And instead of juggling multiple apps, you can just use Monarch Money to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan for your long-term goals. And if you're married, it makes managing money with your spouse that much more smoother. It just really, really helps because you can track shared and personal accounts. You can set goals together and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Thanks again for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Leave your comments on YouTube as well as on X anytime you want. Your feedback is always welcome and encouraged. Thomas Govain from RedbirdRants.com is here. Make sure you guys are giving him a follow on X as well. Let's talk offense, Thomas. Lars Nootbaar is a guy that I like to key in on when it comes to the Cardinals, good and bad, whatever they're going through, because he got off to that red-hot start to the season. And it helped propel the offense to some pretty exciting and big numbers early on, which had us all very much happy. It was like, hey, we're going to lose. At least we're going down swinging, man. We're putting runs on the board. First 7 games of the year, he was hitting .414, the OBP at .514, his OPS at 1.169. He had scored 9 times in the first 7 games. Unsustainable, obviously, for sure. But that's the impact that a great leadoff hitter can have on an offense. Now, since those 7 games, though, things have gotten a little icy for Newt. The last 14 games, Newt is batting 160. The OPS is down to 583. He has struck out 11 times in 62 plate appearances, and he has scored only 3 times. Part of that could be facing better pitching. You face better pitching, it makes things more difficult. But can you shed some light on some of the things going on with Lars Nootbaar recently?
Yeah, he just hasn't seemed to be swinging at the pitches lately. He's gotten a lot of pitches in the zone, but his swing rate on those pitches in the zone is the 9th lowest of the league. He's swinging at 54.3% of pitches inside the zone. A lot of leadoff hitters will not swing at pitches just so they can see higher pitch counts. That allows the other batters to see what the pitcher has in his repertoire, whatever it may be. But the fact that he's not swinging at some of these pitches down the heart of the plate is worrisome. He's mentioned with Marcell Ozuna, Adley Rutschman, Mookie Betts as far as in zone swing rate, but the contact he's getting at this point when he does swing isn't there. He just needs to make contact with the ball more often. Maybe start swinging earlier in the counts just to see if he can get some movement in his swing, adjust a little bit. But he's just not hitting the pitches that he should, not making contact with them, not swinging at them when they're in the zone.
Yeah, it's hard to put the ball in play if you don't take the bat off your shoulder. And,
right.
and it's a tough thing with Newt, too, because we know how good his batting eye is, right? And he's so good that he's better than most of the umpires behind him, and it burns him sometimes where, he ends up getting strikes called against him that aren't strikes. And when the ABS shows up, I can't wait to see what kind of damage Newt could do to the umpires because we saw in the spring how good he was at it. And we're like, yeah this is going to be an issue for umpires when Newt's hitting. But you still got to swing the bat from time to time. There's got to be at moments where you have to go into attack mode. Right. And like you mentioned, I mean, if you're not swinging the bat but I forget which game was it on Sunday or Saturday, where he took two just right down the pipe and just watched it. And you're like, everybody was like, well, they don't get to look any better than that, dude. Like, what do you want? Like, what are you looking for? How did you get fooled twice like that? And that's the part about Newt, which, sometimes it's frustrating because he can get on by walk. But at the same time, you've seen what he can do when he does put bat on ball. Look at the red in his baseball savant page, like all the analytics. Like when he hits the ball, more of the times than not, he's hitting it pretty hard. He's hitting it well, and to take that weapon away and just watch pitches over and over, because he's still walking. That's the thing. Is like over the last 14 games, I think he still had 12 walks. It's not like he's not getting on base, but there's other ways to do it. And he also needs to be a guy that drives in some of those guys at the bottom of the order. When that lineup turns over, you're not a leadoff hitter really anymore. There's other guys on in front of you by this point. So just something that maybe Newt can work on with Brant Brown. We're not complaining. It's just, this is where some of the struggles are coming from for this offense. We're also seeing some regression. I want to get your thoughts on the regression we're seeing from Jordan Walker, which is very disheartening. We're all rooting for him. Everybody wants to see him be great and be this fantastic guy who top prospect and become the guy we want him to be, but batting 156 in his last 12 games. How worried are you about Jordan, considering that this is still April, but are you getting worried at all by what you see?
It's April still. He's still only 23, but there comes a point. I mean, he still has 2.5 major league seasons under his belt at this point. I know he's got the age that he can always fall back on, but I'd like to see more growth and progression from him. His strikeout rate is a career high. It's around 31%. Yeah. It's not the Jordan Walker we thought we'd see this year, especially after how hot he started, or at least how mild he started. He's really cooled off since then. It's worrisome for his future, that's for sure. It's still a wait and see year for me with him, just to see if he can make the adjustments he needs to on a month by month, even game by game basis throughout the entire season. I would not be surprised if in May he goes off and we start talking about all-star for our right fielder. But for right now, I'm keeping an eye on it. Worried, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, you just want to see him do better. We want to see better at bats out of him. I know your colleague Josh Jacobs over at Redwood Rants said that he's starting to chase more on that outside pitch again, which was like a big problem for him last year. And early on this year, wasn't doing it as much. He was laying off of it, or if he was swinging at it, he was taking it to right field. And he seems to be kind of getting into those bad habits again a little bit. So, but again, it is April, and people hate it to hear it over and over, but there's 5 more months of this, guys. So, if he turns it around and hits 285 the rest of the way, you're not going to be crying about what happened in April, but obviously you want to see more production from him. The same thing with Nolan Gorman, which, he had the injury. So again, I caution people, like when they first brought him back after the injury, it takes a little time to get your timing back from to major league pitching. And he had a good night on Monday night in Atlanta. You got to see him take some good swings. I loved how he got some bend in the knees there to go down and get a pitch. So, you got to give these guys time, as frustrating as it is. I get it. The other part of the offense, which it's bizarre, is the DH position. Have you seen the stats on what's going on at the designated hitter position? And I know it's a combination of a lot of people, but we're seeing, Burleson and Baker for the most part. But holy crap. So our DH position, I was in shock when I saw this. They're batting 212 as the team in the DH position. They have as many home runs as you and I, Thomas. They have none out of the DH position. And I'm not just blaming Burley and Baker. Everybody who's been a DH does not have a home run as a DH yet so far this season. You know how many RBIs our DH position has knocked in this year?
I just pulled it up.
So you're looking, you little cheater.
Cheating. Yeah,
one RBI.
Yeah.
How is that even possible?
It's supposed to be the best
212,
offensive
no home
position in the
runs,
lineup.
no
lineup.
RBI, 21 strikeouts. A freaking pitcher can do this. Like, what do we need a DH? Why don't we just let Steven Matz hit? I hear he's pretty good at it. Like, that's crazy to see that the DH, the one guy that only has to focus on batting and nothing else has to be on his mind, is bad as this so far this year. It blew me away when I was like, no way. Did I click the button right? I was like, no way. But that's nuts.
It's you look at it's mostly Alec Burleson, I would assume, and you look at his stats, and they're just not good this year. I'm starting something about like free agents that the Cardinals could still sign. I know that's blasphemous to even consider. JD Martinez is still out there. Like, go sign that dude for pennies, put him in your 5-hole, and let him rake for the rest of the. He's not going to block anybody at this point. We just get something out of your DH spot.
I get you. See, I feel like Thomas is panicking a little bit. You hear that? He's ready to spend money, and
not my money. No, never my money.
They're not going to spend money on that. They'll let somebody else DH. So the JD Martinez thing is probably
Ivan Herrera. Honestly, probably when he comes back, it'll probably be Herrera. Pages be on. Which it's fine. Get Herrera his at bat still, one way or the other. Pages hasn't been bad either. Pitching staff seems to like him.
Yeah, they all hit fine when they're a catcher.
That's
where I don't know what happens, man. It is a black hole in this offense right now, and it's absolutely shocking that it's been as bad as it is, and I couldn't believe it when I saw it. So, all right, coming up next. So people are starting with the streak being as bad as it is, the losing being as bad as it is. Everybody's coming after Oli. Everybody's like, we need a. I'm not watching until Mo and Oli are gone, and we know Mo's going to be gone at the end of the season. So I don't know there's nothing's going to happen there, you guys. But people are really getting on Oli, dude, and I'm getting all these comments, and I just want to share a few with you, and then we'll get your thoughts on how much of this do you put on Oli's shoulders. That coming up next on Locked On Cardinals. Thanks again for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. You can find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Also, we've been doing each week this roundtable thing where we gather hosts from other teams around our Locked On MLB network. So where we just kind of have like a roundtable discussion of all things going on in baseball. A lot of it is us just ripping on each other and making fun of each other. So it's pretty entertaining. It's not just stats and stuff. It's we've gotten some good feedback on that so far. So if you haven't seen that yet, make sure you check that out. That comes into your feed every Tuesday so far. All right. Thomas Cobain from RedRedRants.com. I want to give you some of the material that gets sent to me about Oli. I can't use the ones that use bad language in it, but I can give you some of these. I've never seen a manager so eager to use every arm he has in the pen every game. I've also never seen a manager so scared to allow a starter to go 8 and 9 innings. Marmol manages every game like he's hell-bent on finding the pitcher that stinks today. How long is the rope for Oli Marmol before he finally gets fired? I'm sick and tired of this team losing. Oli doesn't have a clue on how to manage a bullpen. Oli Marmol is the worst manager in baseball. The Cardinals haven't been able to win since he got here. Why does he still wear this uniform? I could just keep going if you wanted me to, but you get the gist of it. People are like just fed up with what's going on. In your opinion, Thomas, because you're a calm guy, how much of this do you put on Oli's shoulders?
I've never been the whole, it's the manager. These are grown men playing a game who should probably be able to figure out how to play it better than they have been. So I don't give Oli a lot of the beef. I give him some of the blame. Like, you look at Saturday's game where he had Ryan Fernandez, and you look at last night's game, it was perfectly set up 7, 8, 9 for Leahy, Maton, Helsley. That's what the plan was. It fell apart. I don't know what more you want Oli to do at that point. Like, he had his guys lined up. That's the best that could happen. Ryan Fernandez in the 9th on Saturday. I know was that Saturday or Sunday? Saturday.
That was on, yeah.
Okay. He had nobody's going to put their closer in at that point. You're on the road. It's a tie game in the 9th inning. You save your closer for when you're in a lead. I understand you want your best pitcher against their best hitters, but that's not something that's done in baseball. That's just not how it goes. Katie Wu had a quote from Marmol about letting the growing pains go, letting the bumps happen. He said Saturday was a perfect example of a youthful game in a lot of different ways. There are youthful moments, and they have to experience that. The players learn from that. Our job is to make sure it doesn't look that way in July. He's trying to get growth out of these guys at this point this year. So I don't. The way you expect a game to be managed needs to be changed a little bit, probably for the Cardinals and Marmol this year. Has he made mistakes? Absolutely, but go find me a manager that hasn't made mistakes, and then hire him immediately.
And that's the hardest part about his current job, because you can tell when Oli is starting to get frustrated, or he's just like, and he's just kind of like, he's like, these are the cards I've been dealt, okay, and we have a plan to try to get the most out of these particular players. All right, we're not going to be switching out all of these players over and over. Would moving Ryan Fernandez to Memphis to kind of get right be a bad thing? I don't think so.
No.
But they don't want to do that because they want him to be better at the major league level, and that's the same things with like guys like Gorman and Walker. I mean, people are like, get them out of here. They're stuck. That's not how it's going to work this year, boys and girls. Like, it's not going to happen. They're going to ride this train and see where it takes them. And like you said, they're also thinking further on down the road. So, and I think one of the things when you see Fernandez coming in the game on Sunday, you only have so many arms, and you've got a lot of games in a row coming up, right? And certain people need to pitch. That's why, like, keeping Ryan Helsley back in the pen and not using him, you're like, well, eventually you got to throw him, right? Because you're going to wear all these other dudes out. Like you mentioned, it feels like Maton's been in every game so far this year. And finally, eventually they're all going to lose a game. Like, it's just going to happen. They're going to get hit or something that's not going to work. But yeah, this is just the way it is. And as frustrating as it may be for the Cardinals fans, it's just as bad for Oli. He doesn't want to lose games, but he's got to ride the peaks and valleys. And people are going to get sick of me saying that all year, and I know they are, but that's what it's going to be. It's this roller coaster. It's all the ups and downs, but they're willing to ride with the downs so that they get the best possible production out of the young guys at the end of the year, and they know exactly what they're working with when Chaim Bloom takes over next year.
Well, let's pretend if you do fire Oli, who do you? Daniel Scalzo becomes your manager. What you want that? Skip Schumacher's not going to. Schumacher's not going to leave his cushy job in the Rangers front office. Yachty and Albert might, but does Chaim Bloom want Yachty or Albert? Do we want Yachty or Albert's legacy to be tarnished? Nobody likes the manager.
Yeah. These are all great questions that after this offseason, we can start getting into this. But Oli Marmol is going to be your manager this year, guys. Him and Mo are ride or die together here in 2025. So you can complain all you want. They're not going to fire these guys. Like, it's just not going to happen. So if that's what you're waiting for, we'll see in 2026, because it's not going to happen.
Right.
Couple other ones real quick. Walker still has not proven he can hit MLB pitching. Gorman has proven most definitely that he will never amount to anything as a hitter. Our terrific bullpen last year was due primarily, here's a good thing, due to the lack of familiarity. Now that players have seen guys like Fernandez more, nobody is fooled by them. Nootbaar is an average player whom the front office is convinced will be a superstar. We constantly overrate and underprepare our prospects. Any thoughts on that particular remark?
Well, for what it's worth, Nolan Gorman is striking out only 25% of the time right now.
Yeah, buddy. I'm all here for the Gorman positivity. I won't lie.
Yeah,
I want to see this guy do, because I'm going to die on my Gorman hill that he's actually going to be a capable player.
I don't. It's a peak. You said it's peaks and valleys. Like, you can't look at a weak stretch for any player and say this. You look at Nootbaar's first week, you'd say he is the best player since Babe Ruth. You look at Nootbaar's last week, you say that he needs to be out of the league. You've got to take a larger approach at these types of things, and you've got to look at players from a holistic approach. Jordan Walker's defense is much improved in the corner. His offense hopefully catches up. Lars Nootbaar is a wonderful all-around player. He's just on a bit of a cold streak like right now. The Cardinals will not be very good this year. They will probably not make the playoffs, but you've got to take the players as a holistic approach. I'm frustrated too. I would love to see Lars Nootbaar hitting 280 in leadoff and walking 20% of the time, but that's just not going to happen for a full year.
Yeah, and people have brought up too, like, as maybe we're losing right now, but Ivan Herrera got taken out, who
Mason
we
Wynn.
both predicted. We talked this also. I was like, I think Ivan Herrera is going to be huge this year. I think he's going to be a really good hitter. And he was. And then he went down, and things haven't been the same since. Mason Wynn has been out as well. You're starting shortstop. The Thomas and JC discussion, whether or not he should stay up or stay down. I mean, it upsets people, but I got into it in the last episode where, like, he's got to play every day. And if he's just going to be a bench guy, then what's the point of having him up on the team on a team that doesn't have playoff aspirations right now? So, you're going to get some of these guys back. Starting rotation's been pretty good. Super impressed with how Eric Fetty has been so far this year, outside of, a couple of innings here and there. But, I mean, he's been awesome. Sonny Gray's been really, really good. There are some positives about this team. They're just in a bad spot right now, and they're playing the Mets and the Braves, who last check, and I know the Braves had a tough start to the season, but weren't both of those guys supposed to be two of the best teams in the National League? I believe so. So losing games to these guys, it's not like you're dropping games to the Marlins and the White Sox and lower tier teams. Okay, these are good teams that have good players, and they're expected to win this year. They have World Series aspirations. Cardinals do not. So to see them come out on top, it's not shocking. But at the same time, you see how you're losing games, and it becomes a little difficult for the fans, and I can understand that. So, all right, anything you're working on, Thomas, here? You mentioned some JD Martinez stuff. Love the first name.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there you go. I'm looking at some free agent supplements just to fill some of the holes. Nothing major, just a couple of relief pitchers. I've been running some polls about the best spots of the franchise. I started with the best stadium, owner, general manager. We're on the best pitcher right now. And then I'll close off with the best position player today and tomorrow. And then I'll write about the results from there. Other than that, just some regular news updates. Probably something at some point about what to do with Thomas JC. I know we've had a couple of things about that, but I'd like to explore that as well.
All right. Well, check out all of Thomas's work at redwoodranch.com. And thank you guys for making Locked on Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, give us a follow on X at LO_Cardinals and JD Sports Radio, TikTok and Instagram at Locked on Cardinals. Like, subscribe on YouTube, help our channel and love for the Cardinals grow. Making that push for 12,000 subscribers, or we're within the final 100 to get to 12,000. So if you haven't subscribed, we'd love to have you on board, because you guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason. We'll see you next time on Locked on Cardinals.